When the State of Israel was created, then Prime Minister David Ben Gurion ushered the status quo between the Orthodox and seculars in the newly formed country. He gave the around 500 families of ultra-Orthodox Haredi citizens a waiver not to serve in the Israeli army in order to entrust their support in the Jewish state. In recent years, voices in the Israeli society have spoken out about changing the status quo, especially due to the fact that the Orthodox community has now grown to around 700,000 and is seen as leaching of state money when they don't contribute back to society. In the recent election, the Yish Atid party ran on a platform of the equality of the burden in which, amongst others, they called to enlist all Orthodox Jewish men to the army like every citizen in the country. The Netanyahu government has recently approved the new draft law, and now everyone is anxious to see when and how it will be implemented. We asked our experts what they think is going to happen next. Dr. Robbie Nathanson from the think tank Macro believes that the entering of the Orthodox community into the life cycle of the Israeli society will automatically shift the burden every citizen in the country will have to carry.
The idea of engage and enroll the Orthodox into the army and motivate them to participate in the labor market is to make a much fair distribution of the burden in the army, and if this will be the case, then youngsters from the secular sector, they might have to serve far less. And if the Orthodox step into the distribution of the burden, then probably the service will be reduced to 2.5 years or 2 years, because we have then a much larger number of soldiers, and among them we can make a much fairer distribution of the burden in the army, and this is the idea. And this might have also a bigger impact on economic and also on the secular sector as well.
The deputy mayor of Jerusalem, Yitzhak Pindrus, proclaims that it is not about going to the army, it's about the seculars forcing on the Orthodox to change who they really are.
I can't tell you the situation is getting better, it's getting worse. And as long as political people in Israel will gain from this battle, and there is a party that has 19 candidates out of that battle, right? As long as that's going to be going on, I don't see a solution happening. I'd rather go to jail than trying by any group in Israel to change my tradition and my culture. Okay, the matter, like I said again, the issue is not the army. I was personally in the army. I have friends that were in the army, right? I know children that went to the army. That's not the issue. The issue is making me not legitimate and trying to change my style of life and my culture. And for that, I'm willing to go anywhere.
Jerusalem Post columnist Jonathan Rosenblum claims that neither the government nor the army really want the Haredim to enlist.
I don't think the government does want to force the Haredim to enlist into the army. I think this is basically a political ploy. It doesn't want to force them to enlist in the army because the army can't absorb them. The army is undergoing major budget cuts right now. Major budget cuts. They're cutting back on procurement, they're cutting back on training. They don't want to spend their money on creating a whole separate army for Haredim, which will have gender separation, which doesn't exist in the regular army, but they'll create gender separation. They were accepting Haredim at the rate that they can accept them. Already in 2011, the army, there were more Haredim registering, young boys registering to enlist than the army was able to accommodate. When you have harsh language like, we'll criminalize anyone who doesn't go into service, so people respond and say, so we won't go, we'll all go to jail. Everybody knows it's a game. The criminalization is a game and the going to jail is a game. And they know that if it would come in, that you would en masse try and enforce 5,000 Haredi 18-year-olds a year or 21-year-olds a year to go into the army, which the army can't accommodate with anything like their religious standards, that they would go to jail. But that's all a game because it's not going to happen.
Pindrus explains it starts all with the fact that the Orthodox Jews cannot get a job in the secular sector.
I really don't think it is a problem that needs a solution. The Haredi community is growing. The more was growing the share that were going to the army, the more jobs were available for Haredim. And as a matter of fact, the main problem for jobs for Haredi people is because they're not accepted to jobs. The more is going to making Haredi not legitimate, I would say would be, it makes worse the issue, it doesn't make it better.
Jonathan Rosenblum thinks there was a special time in the history that allowed Orthodox Jews to do only spiritual work, but that time is slowly but surely going away.
The social model upon which Israeli Haredi society is built is based on the post-Holocaust moment. It's based on the desire to rebuild the citadels of Torah learning, which were completely destroyed by the Nazis in the Holocaust. And now we're in a period of readjustment, moving towards normalization while trying to preserve the ideal of Torah learning. And it's now in a period of adjustment within the Haredi world for reasons entirely due to the internal needs of that community, having nothing to do with outside governmental pressure and so forth.
Nathanson explains that at the end of the day it is the will of the Israeli society to divide the burden, but the question is how it will be executed.
It depends how you handle it. I mean, there are positive trends of initiatives from the Orthodox sector itself and people there that are telling, listen, we don't want to be depending anymore on transfer payments, and we want to share also the burden, and we want also to increase our participation in the working market. The participation of the Orthodox in the labor market is increasing, and it was 50% or less, and now it's close to 60%, and this is already a very positive trend.
And with both sides of the issue currently entrenched in their position, this has become a competition of who will blink first. For JN1, I'm Ron Jacobsohn in Tel Aviv.